What up guys, welcome back to the channel. Here's part 3 of the higher heights videos. This is going to be the final one. I just got a couple things that I want to talk about. It's like driving a lifted truck, towing with a lifted truck, some of the safety things that you need to do to the truck once it's all completed. And we're going to install that very front diff cover that I forgot to put in on the last video. Now the instructions do say that you have to modify it, that's why I waited for it to last. However, I don't have to modify mine, it's just going to go right in, so I'll show you guys. It's really nice and simple. And we'll talk about how the lift kit is holding up. It's been almost, I want to say 10 months since I lifted this truck. Remember when I was getting back into YouTube, we did those videos, and I told you guys that I was just kind of taking a break for a little bit, but the camera was still rolling when I was putting parts on. I actually put this lift kit on almost 10 months ago, I want to say. It might have been about 11 months, so you know, we're closing in on a year on this lift kit, and I'll show you it's held up very, very well. I'm very excited, especially since how I was nervous about pulling that camper right there. That's 11,800 pounds dry weight, and being a lifted truck, that can be a little bit scary, hauling some stuff, but it's done very, very well with it. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is want to level it side to side. Now it's really difficult for me on this type of concrete because it actually slopes this way towards the driveway, and it also slopes this way away from the house. So I tried to put the bubble exactly where it is, left and right. It is not level right now because our tires are crooked, but when they're straight, this thing matches the pitch of the concrete, so we're good to go there. You cannot necessarily do that on the rear because either whether you put in blocks or lift springs themselves, there is just the standard curve, or the blocks themselves for the height. I guess you could put a larger block on the other side, but that seems extremely dangerous. But the rear should be perfectly fine, perfectly level, and mine is, so I'm happy with that. Next, you're going to want to level it front to back. Do you want to sit in the nose a little bit lower so it matches kind of like a normal truck stance? Do you want to sit it perfectly even between the front and the rear like most people do? And please don't lift it all the way up front because that just looks really stupid when you're truck squatting. Now the way to do that is to lift or drop your torsion keys. There is that one bolt in there that holds it in place. If you drive them up into it as you tighten it, it's going to push the torsion keys up, which is going to put more tension on your torsion bars, and it's going to lift the truck. If you back those screws out, it's going to relieve the tension, it's going to sag the truck a little bit. So mine sits about a ½ inch lower in the front than it does in the rear. I want it level, however I kind of like the little bit of the truck stance, so it's not super aggressive as a trunk. So my nose sits about a ½ inch lower than the rear does, and this is how I achieved it. Now I personally don't like how rusty these are. These were also bought on Amazon, so I can't be too concerned. These have been on for, like I said, about 10 months. So these, how bad these look, I think I might actually go to the dealership and actually get some GM ones. They might last a little bit longer. But here is the nut itself. If you go up, you're going to lift the truck up. If you go down, you're going to drop the truck. And there's one on each side. So if you tighten this one up, you're going to lift the driver's side up. If you tighten up the other one, you're going to lift the passenger side up. It does take a couple minutes to kind of get it going left and right and front and back the way you like it. Now I recommend, if you're going to lift the truck, get some tension off of these. Lift the truck up with a jack so it releases a lot of it. You drive it all up. Don't use an impact on these. I've seen a lot of people break these right clean off, then you've got to replace them in general. If you want to go down, you can use a ratchet and actually lower the truck. It's not as terrible, but if you want to go up, I highly suggest taking the load off of this. But jack the truck up a little bit, or put the unloading tool in there, crank it down to where there's just a little bit of tension on this thing so it doesn't rock on you a little bit, tighten it out. I suggest using a ratchet or some type of a breaker bar and just go a turn at a time until you get to the desired height that you like. Next, take it to a reputable shop and get the front end alignment. That is very, very crucial. I put these back on, got it all squared away. It drove okay. I tried to bring it there and actually had to trailer the truck because it was so far off I couldn't move my actual tie rods in and out. So I couldn't even drive it remotely close to straight, so we trailered it. But highly, highly recommend you get it aligned just like it's supposed to. Have a reputable shop in there so it's nice and straight and you're not getting your truck sitting here doing this, turning each way, got your tires going in each 2 different directions. Just make sure you get it aligned. And then at the 500 mile mark, make sure you re-torque everything. Just double check all your nuts, your bolts, your screws, everything on there. Make sure nothing backed out. Make sure everything isn't too tight. I put all brand spanking new suspension components front and rear. The only things that I changed or did not change was the torsion keys and the bars and the lower control arms. Everything else got all brand new bushings, well, including the lower control arms, but the metal themselves were the same. I got new leaf springs in the rear. Everything's going to start breaking in, and then the truck might sag a little bit here and there. I don't think it's going to sag too much that you won't notice, but everything's just kind of work itself in together like it's supposed to. You may have to readjust left and right or front and back if you want to. Remember, if you do too much of a change, you most likely will have to get another alignment. However, if you just go and double check all the torque set settings, get everything all squared away, you should be all good to go. Next thing, what you're going to want to do, those headlights right there, get them realigned. As I'm sitting right now, I'm sitting about 5.5 inches higher in the front, maybe about 5 inches. So my headlights are 5 inches higher. So you're blinding every single person if you don't get them aligned. And with projectors, it gets pretty gnarly. So this is during the daytime. At nights, it's way worse when it's actually dark and you're looking into light. But make sure you get those aligned properly. At about 25 feet, you want to be eye level with the truck. But we're going to sit just a little bit lower than that because we're eye level already with everybody else on the road. So make sure you get those aligned. Don't blind everybody else. That's just going to cause all kinds of accidents, all kinds of problems. Just get them realigned, make them look nice. Next, double check with your lift kit that your rims that you have currently that's either going to go on the truck or the ones that you currently have for the truck, the ones that are going to go back on the truck, make sure they're going to clear. Do not make the same mistake that I did. I was going to keep the 17-inch rims that I had before. I was going to wrap them in 35s and roll with that for a while because we were going to come in on winter after the summer months and I wanted those for my winter rims. Not going to work out. It does not work out with this lift kit. And let me show you how that is. So you see how much room I have right here between the tire and the spindle itself. What had happened was my 17s were rubbing right on this right here. And that's because the rim was not big enough. So when I looked it all up, it didn't really say a whole lot about it. Kryptonite does have on their website some rim sizes for some of their lift kits, but Cognito didn't. I'm sure if I looked a little harder, I probably would. Either way, the tire shop that I brought it to suggested a 19-inch rim or higher to clear that whole spindle. So I picked up these Gear off-road rims. That's their pivot line. These are a 20 by 12 rim or a 20 by 11.5 inch rim. And then we got some Cooper tires, Discovery AT3s. They're a 35 by 12.5 inch tire. I got these whole deal package, pretty good deal on them. All 4 of them mounted and balanced. These are used rims. Actually, these ones are off a 2019 truck, so I am currently also running spacers up in the front. I don't particularly like that. We're going to rock these out for a little bit. These are eventually going to be my winter rims, so happy with these right now. They look really good on the truck, and they give me that nice little stance that I'm looking for. I don't want to go super wide. I would like to go a little bit wider, but I don't want to go super wide. I don't know if I got a 14 wide rim, if that's going to be a little bit too much, but I like the way that these stance are. So just double check the rim is going to clear your spindle. Then again, these are 20s right now. The shop told me 19s or higher. These were a perfect fit for me. Now keep in mind, with a bigger rim and tire, they're a lot heavier. Give yourself a little more stopping distance, especially if you're not going to upgrade your brake calipers, your pads, your rotors, anything like that. Just make sure you know that you've got to stop those rims before they stop the truck. So these are a lot heavier than the factory ones that I had on previous to that. So just keep that in the back of your mind, especially when you're towing something that you are going to take a little bit longer to stop everything. Now with rims that are wider than your truck, just keep in mind, you are probably going to get some rock chips if you don't have any mud flaps or some type of paint protection. Now, I do plan on replacing both of the fenders because they're both rusted out, and when I was adjusting this thing, I didn't have this thing right, like I told you in the last video. We crushed those a little bit. This is a Michigan truck. It's a 2010, so it is 16 years old, and it's got 230,000 K on her. So some of the original factory parts are starting to rust a lot, and that's why we were restoring some of the frame, which has held up very well for this first Michigan winter with that paint. I'm very happy to say that. You can do see some spots where I didn't prep or paint as well. However, it's held up really well. That being said, I want to get all of the body panels that are rusting out replaced or fixed, and then we're going to wrap this thing with a clear wrap. A buddy of mine owns a body shop. He recommended it to me. It's similar to ceramic coat, however, it is a clear wrap that you basically put on your truck, your vehicle, however it is. He highly recommends that. Plus, it's very easy. You put it on. If it gets all damaged, you take it off, you put a new one back on. Similar to wrap, you're just not changing the color, you're keeping that. And those have fared very, very well. He does it on both of his vehicles. And that's the plan once I get those fenders, the hood, the box, and the tailgate all replaced. Now let's get that cover in. I did get this from Amazon because mine was dirty. I'm just kidding. It's starting to crack a little bit in places. There's a crack here, and I think we cracked her pretty hardcore right there. So, like I said, they said you had to modify to get this in there. What you have to say, what they state to modify is to cut basically right here and right here. So this will slide on and lift. However, when I put this in, it slides right in with no issues whatsoever. If you don't get a Cognito lift, I'm not 100% sure if you'll have the same results. However, for mine, I'm able to slap this in there. So let's get it in. Very, very simple. Just covers your radiator and your lower radiator hose. So front three goes right here. This is the curl of the thing, of the cover. And then there's one hole right here and one hole right here for the back two bolts. All right, when you put this in, they are 15mm bolts, just ratcheting them right in there. Just so you know that there's a little mount right here with a hole. That's going to be where this thing goes to get her in. Alright, as you kind of see, these are actually loose. I got to put them in still with a ratchet, but they were a little difficult. There is a nice little ledge right here. You kind of got to force feed it in a little bit, get them all started, and then ratchet them down. As you can see, I don't have any trimming anywhere on this whole thing. So, I can't account for any other lift kit. However, this one, perfectly good. And voila. And lastly, just have fun with it. It was a ton of work, but well worth it. I actually very, very much enjoy this. Now, it was a ton of work, don't get me wrong, especially with filming. So I don't want to scare you guys or just give you false bit of hope. It is a ton of work, don't get me wrong. Shops who do this every single day, I definitely commend them because they're doing the Lord's work, I'll tell you that much right now. Not to try to scare you guys at all, it was a lot of work. However, I do recommend it. I really, really do. It looks awesome. The parts themselves are really, really high quality. Definitely recommend doing something like this. It does get a ton of looks. Like I said, it's a very, very clean truck for being a Michigan truck. The lift kit is really high quality, very clean. And like I said, I'm super, super happy with it. Now, what do you guys think of the factory turbo? It does sound pretty good for factory, but maybe we should make her a little bigger. I close out the video, guys, I just want to give out a big special thanks out to my buddy who helped me out with the lift. That was a lot of work. He had to drive almost 2 hours one way to get to me to help me out. We did this all in 2 weekends, which was really, really awesome that he took the time out there. And also a big shout out to Hunter at Injected Motorsports, where I got all of the parts from. Can't thank you enough for getting those out to me as quick as you can, even though they sat in my garage for years, if you will. So I'll leave the link to the part that I put in there, that front diff cover. Gotta roll those windows up so you guys can actually hear me and not just the truck and windows blinding everything out. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe if you do like this type of content. I do have a lot of stuff rolling down the channel. I'm very, very excited since how we are closing in on 1,000 subscribers, which I think is really, really awesome. Not expecting that for a channel like this. How-to videos on YouTube don't particularly do very well, and if they do, they just absolutely explode. So the fact that we're closing in on 1,000 subscribers is really, really awesome. And just like that, guys, I'm out of here. Deuces.